So welcome to the Grow with Ryan Magic show. We've got Dale Beaumont here today. So great to have you here, legend. Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, great to be here and looking forward to chatting.
Yeah, awesome. So one thing that I really admire about you is the way that you've set up your lifestyle. You've achieved so many big, noteworthy business accomplishments. You've had multiple businesses that have been multi-million dollar enterprises, which is amazing. But you also, at the moment, have gotten to a point where you've got a beautiful family. You travel for 4 months a year. You don't have any hesitation on executing on new ideas. And I'm really curious to dig into the rhythm behind how this whole life of yours actualizes, and also the way that you think about your life and the way that you think about your business and the activity that you have day to day, week to week, like what's going through your head. So I've got a bunch of questions I'm going to ask, and I'm really excited. And if throughout the interview at all you have any questions, shoot them back my way, but I'm looking forward to having a nice convo together. So
Great, let's do it.
first question that I have for you, Dale, is how do you get so much fit into your routine while also maintaining a work-life balance? I know how important your family is to you, and you've hit me up multiple times with these new initiatives that you're launching and telling me about what's going on. And I'm always so impressed that you're able to execute on so much and get so many things done, launched and maintained. How do you get that done and also maintain such a beautiful balance at home?
Yeah, well, I think it starts by really, having some type of vision for the life that you want to create, for yourself. One of my mentors said to me once, the clearer the picture, the fewer the choices, the easier the decision. So, in life, we've got to make a lot of decisions. And how do we make better decisions is by having fewer choices, because you have to choose between 100 things, you're probably going to make pretty crappy choices. But you have to choose between 2 or 3, you're going to make better choices. And how do you actually limit the number of choices that you have in your life is by having a clearer picture about what you actually want, because then you can kind of know, does this thing fit what I want? So having a clear kind of like vision. So one of the things that I did when I was 18, I was at a goal setting workshop, and I was asked to write out 100 things that I wanted to achieve in my life, which I did. And I was also asked to write a description of how I wanted my life to be. I think it was like 7 different areas. One of them was like career and business. The other one was kind of like wealth and investment. Another one was going to be health. Another one was about relationships as well. So I wrote like about a half-page description of, this is how I want my home life to be. This is how I want my relationship to be. It's how I want my health to be as well. And just by seeing that sort of like intention, it then kind of planted a seed about the life that I wanted to create for myself. And so I've been kind of like steadily working towards achieving that. Not all of those things have come to life, but a whole bunch of other things that I hadn't expected, have been achieved. And then every single year, what I do is I normally plan out my year, normally 12 months in advance. And so what that means is, first of all, putting in my holidays. So we have 4 kind of like holidays a year, normally a month at a time. So we put those in. And then I would put in all of my other things in terms of my business kind of goes in. I run four big conferences a year, so they go in as well. Then I do other events that feed into my program, so I put all those in as well. But I even put things like staff training, performance reviews. I even put things like massages and haircuts and these type of things into this sort of 12-month plan.
The 12-month plan.
So I literally plan out, I've got this whole process now of planning out my kind of like 12 months in advance. I make the decision once, and then I just book all of my, kind of haircuts. I book all of my massages. I book all of my team meetings. I book all of my, sometimes like, date nights with my wife, or, hanging out with my family and going up to see my brother. Just sort of like locked and loaded. So I don't really have to think too much. I just need to then do. And it's
pretty methodical.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And it's kind of just like you get in for the ride, and it's like, cool, here's my year. I'm just going to step in the vehicle of my year and life, and I'm just going to ride it out.
Yeah. And the good thing is that you've already kind of like, you already have made your decisions in terms of like going, for example, one of them is my mum and dad. Like they my mum and dad would love to live at our house if they could. My wife's mum, she would be happy if she saw the kids like twice a year. And so,
Sure.
and so what you do is you kind of go, okay, in order for people to be happy in my life, in order for my staff to be kind of like trained well and nurtured, in order for my business to be producing the income, in order to stay healthy and have vitality, in order to make sure that, my body doesn't break down, if I need to see an osteopath or whatever. How often does that thing need to happen? Is it every week? Is it every month? Is it once a year, or quarterly, whatever it is? And you just decide on the frequency, and then just, pop it in your diary. And so that way you don't have to have this constant angst of feeling guilty about, I wish I was doing this and I wish I should be doing this. And I've really forgotten about this. It's just like it happens when it needs to happen, before anything breaks or before anything goes wrong. Prevention, is better than cure.
Yeah, it's very proactive, that setup. What do you ever feel like you lack spontaneity, or you miss variety, or do you embed that into the way that you do the activities? Meaning that if you've got your work week, is it like, cool, this week I'm going to work on this, this, and this, and I've spawned this new idea and I want to start exploring that. Like, where do you get your variety from?
Yeah. So basically, like, the variety is then everything else. The variety is like, agreeing to do this chat
Yeah,
here,
totally.
kind of like, and I know that everything else will happen when it needs to happen because it's already scheduled. But once all the main stuff is in there, it's only sort of like 20% of my day, would be stuff that's preloaded and preset, or 20% of my year is preset, but the other 80% is open. And that's getting work done, or it's responding to new opportunities, or it's, it is being spontaneous, or doing something because I really am like finding it fun, or I'm passionate about it. But I know that my work is not going to slip, and I know that I'm still going to make the income and sales that we need. I still know that my health's going to be taken care of, and don't get so lost in something that everything falls apart.
Yeah, cool. So I've heard the idea that discipline can set you free. And I feel like this is the best example that I've seen of it. And it's not even discipline, or it's the discipline of the one time a year that you're setting all this.
Yeah.
And you're writing it out, because I don't know many people that travel for 4 months a year on 4 separate 1 month trips. That's incredible.
Yeah. So it's it's that saying, you make your habits and then your habits make you. And so, and also with regards to the holidays as well, I think it's been one of my actually kind of secret weapons to my success, is being able to have these 4 months off every single year. When I'm traveling, I get some of my best ideas, and it makes the business a lot stronger because it can actually prove that it can run without me having to be there. The staff become more independent. They learn to think for themselves when I'm not there as well. And I always just, people you meet, conversations that you have, and it's just about, it's just about bringing me joy and happiness. And I love learning about, like, if that's kind of where for me time disappears, is when I'm in a new place, learning new about new religion and culture and food and people, and just watching, how, because, in the Western world, we have a certain model of what sort of like, success is, but you go to somewhere like Egypt, and they have a completely different paradigm in terms of what is success and what is wealth and what is happiness, and what is love and these type of things. And so it's just fascinating to get out of our kind of like the world that we live in and learn to appreciate, other mindsets around how to live life.
Yeah, really cool. It's super interesting. And I can imagine reading your bio, like, to get a really in-depth view of who you are from your kind of the whole description, was you've traveled to over 60 countries. I think that was in 2014 as well. Has that gone up?
Yeah, we've been to about 85 countries now around the world.
Crazy.
We've been to all 7 continents, which is good. And yeah, we've got 2 little kids. So that's the other thing as well, is wanting to make sure that we clock up create lots of memories with our 2 boys, and just make sure that we are living our life on the way through, because it is very easy just to become completely obsessed. And as someone that is very, very hardworking, it can become like an obsession, and your work can very, very quickly define who you are. And one of the things that someone
Mm,
said to me once is, work is what you do, it's not who you are. And so a lot of people's whole self-esteem, their identity, their self-worth in this world is them being productive in terms of, business. And if they,
mm,
and I actually did have this experience before, once in my life, when I never been through, thankfully, in a position where I've been had good days, bad days, maybe even bad weeks before, but I haven't been in a state where I've been depressed for an extended period of time. But I did once, because I used to be a gymnast. That was part of my kind of like background. I started gymnastics at the age of 7. And by the age of 9, I'd made the state squad. And by the age of 11, I was training 36 hours a week in the gym on top of going to school.
mm.
And so I learned about a lot of lessons from my sporting career, about hard work, about discipline, about how to motivate myself, etc. Anyway, I competed for up until 18, almost 19, and then I stopped. And when I stopped, I felt terrible about myself, because for my whole life up until that point had been that I had this sort of like identity around being
Mm.
this person that could, that could do backflips and that could run really fast and that was super fit and that had a great body. And that was, Dale was, and even at school, it was like, Dale's the gymnast. He's the guy that, can walk on his hands and do all these cool tricks. And
Really?
when I stopped all of that, it's like, you mean I'm just a normal person now? You mean I'm just like, and I know that this happens as well for a lot of people in the military. They're so used to being so disciplined,
Mm,
as a soldier, and then they come home and they're just a civilian. It's like, who am I now? I'm a nobody. Like I'm
mm.
worthless. And that's because their whole identity was wrapped up in the work that they did, not who they are as a person. And
Yeah.
so what I've tried to do is sort of separate, in a way. Dale has a professional career and Dale runs now several businesses, but I'm also a guy that, is married and has 2 kids and is a friend and is someone who likes fitness, and someone who loves to travel, and someone that loves creating things. And
Mm.
so that way, if one day I don't have my businesses anymore, then life is still like, I'm still me, and I'm still the same person that I always was.
Yeah, that's so powerful. I call this unconditional confidence. So I
Mm.
feel so many entrepreneurs, like you said, have their self-worth, their whole, like you said, identity is wrapped around the business. And this was me as well. And then when the business started to experience some turbulence and have some losses, I realized how much of myself I'd tied to that business outcome. And so learning to love myself unconditionally, heal any kind of like traumas that I had around a kid where I'd made the decision that I need to be this person to then be worthy of receiving love. For me, it really stemmed back down to the way that I was parented when I was young, getting attention if I succeeded and, kind of being ignored if I wasn't. And it's super dangerous. And most entrepreneurs initially get success through that, but it definitely causes poor decisions when you're more of a grounded CEO that's responsible for other people and having a team and paving out the vision. Because what happens is then when it comes to needing to make decisions, sometimes you need to pull back. Sometimes you need to rest. Sometimes you need to slow down. And if your self-worth is attached to the constant going and you'd make those decisions anyway to appease your own sense of self, the business suffers. And that was my experience. So what age were you when you made the decision to start to find more balance in your life?
Yeah, I think most of my 20s, I can just like, it was pretty intense. Like, I worked really hard. I just like wake up in the morning, turn on my laptop, and I'd started to work, and I'd be oftentimes, out and about doing a bunch of things throughout the day, all work related. And at night, I'd, be having dinner, then I'd be opening my laptop and I'd do another 3 or 4 hours worth of work. And maybe, would it be like till 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, almost every day. And then weekends, it was just, the same sort of like same thing. But then, it just gets to the point where it's kind of like, you sort of feel like there's another sort of like classic saying is that we work so we can live. We don't live our life so we can work the whole sort of like time. And so, how do I want to be, remembered as just the guy that, kind of like made a shitload of money and then died? Like, that's not really that, exciting. And I remember, that saying, whoever dies with the most amount of toys still dies. So just, you know, kind of building up all this kind of like, and this is another weird thing for kind of like an entrepreneur as well, is that you know, if you think about modern medicine, modern science, that if you, as long as you look after your body and you eat well and you do all the right things, we should be living to 100. You know, if you understand about, you know, rates of kind of exponential growth, and now being able to, you know, 3D print organs and other things, who knows? There's even a school of thought out there to say that, you know, we could be the first generation, or kids being born today could be the first generation that could, you know, could live forever. Now that's kind of way out there, and whether you believe in that or not, it's irrelevant. But let's just say the number's 100. Then, you know, why be in such a rush? Like, you know, so you work really, really hard and you've kind of like, you know, retired at 30 or retired at 40, then what are you going to do for the rest of your life? And so I think the idea is to make sure that you certainly make a certain amount of money. And I believe in sort of doing the best I can in business as well. But I also don't believe in killing myself on the way through. And I don't believe in making money at any cost. And I don't believe in making the most amount of money that you physically can, because it's just not sustainable to kind of like operate at that level. And I've seen many people kind of like come and go in our kind of industry that have, you know, have done really well in 2-3 years, but I've never wanted to make like the most amount of money in a year. I've always wanted to be, I want to be around for the longest, you know, and I want to kind of like have a good business over 10 or 20 or 30 years. And I'll well and truly, you know, achieve financial goals, which we've already done. But I've also look at my life compared to other people, and I could list the number of things that I've done and achievements. I'm not saying any way my decisions are better than anyone else's, but I just know that what I've tried to do is learn from other people's mistakes. And I've met many wealthy entrepreneurs that are in their 60s and 70s, and sort of said that, you know, those little kids, and this is part of the reason why we actually started to travel. You know, when we gave, my wife gave birth to our son, we had a friend of ours come to the hospital and said, you know, just mark my words that one day you're going to blink and these kids are going to be 16 years of age going, where's the keys to the car? Like, it's going to go like, you know, like that. And so they said that make sure as well that you enjoy your life on the way through. Like, life is meant to be lived. And so you can't just wait until, I'll wait until I'm 50 and I got all this money, and then your kids are growing up and they don't even want to hang out with you. And, you know, it's kind of like, or you know, you don't have the energy to travel anymore. Like, you've got to live your life on the way through as well. And
I'm sorry to jump in there, Dale. I'm really curious to know what your kind of day-to-days look like. So you're playing the long-term game. You want to be around for the longest. You definitely have been the most consistent in the business consulting, business coaching space that I've seen in Australia, for sure, 100%. And that's obviously your lifestyle's got something to do with that, from your ability to travel and balance family. I'm curious to know what it looks like zoomed into the day-to-day. Like, what do you do on a day? Like, what do you fit into your day? How do you set it up? Would love to know.
Yeah, so I sort of like, I used to be super disciplined around getting up at like, you know, 6 a.m. every single morning, going for a run and doing this. And like, kind of, you know, there's these people that live their life in these 5-minute kind of like rituals about doing this. Then I have to, you know, take a cold shower. Then I've got to meditate for 12 minutes. And then I've got to do this. And I just
sounds like my day.
Yeah. And people, I've been through that sort of journey, and some people absolutely love it and they're just so rigid around it. And I think that's awesome. For me, I kind of just go now off how I'm feeling on any kind of given day. And it's oftentimes driven by how I was feeling the night before. Like, so if I was like feeling super inspired, you know, I might kind of turn my laptop on at 9 o'clock and just work until 1 o'clock in the morning, just like 4 or 5 hours worth of inspired work. I'll just crank it out. And if I'm doing that, I'm not going to get up at 6 a.m. in the morning. Like, I might sleep in until 7, and I won't go for a run in the morning. But if I'm kind of like 8 or 9 o'clock and I just kind of feel like, you know what, I'm a bit tired right now, I think I'd like to go to bed, then I might, you know, read a book, listen to a podcast or something like that, go to bed at 10 o'clock, and then I'll wake up at 6 o'clock and kind of go for a run and then get stuck into my day. So I'll just kind of see how I'm feeling. And any given week, I'll normally run, you know, 2 or 3 times a week. I'd go for a 5K run. Normally go to the gym when you're able to do so, you know, 2 or 3 times a week as well. So tick the fitness box. And then, you know, it's different with kids as well. You kind of can't be so rigid. Sometimes the kids are kind of like jumping on you early in the morning. And so my days just kind of tend to flow, and it's just like whatever happens, happens. You know, if I feel like getting a coffee in the morning, I'll stop and have coffee with my wife and we'll go for breakfast. If not, I just want to get to the office, I'll get to the office, and I'll just sort of like, it just sort of like evolves.
That's beautiful. I love the flexibility, and that's very intuitive. It's feeling into what's required and then executing on it. And I know a lot of entrepreneurs and personal development leaders make, and this is what I was kind of sensing into when you were telling me about your year. It's kind of predefined what's going to happen in advance, but then things can change. So I always say, like, it's great to have preferences, but if it's an expectation and a rigid attachment, then your previous self doesn't know what's best for you in this moment versus your current self. And if you were to play sport that way, or the example becomes a lot clearer. If you're going to play tennis and already pre-choose what direction you're going to serve, what way you're going to run, if you're going to hit forehand or backhand, you're just going to look like an absolute moron because you're going to run left when the ball goes right. You're going to be present and feel into what's required. I'm curious to know around your business mindset, because when you're starting out in business, and I know a lot of people that are listening, it's exciting. The idea of making it and hitting key milestones is really exciting. I've found for me, the novelty of making it after you've made it and hitting these next milestones wears off very quickly. And I'm curious to know what your philosophy or feeling is around business when you're thinking about where to spend your time. For me, it's like, I want to spend my time on things that I love, and then and wrap that combo around the passion and the profitability and what's going to make the most impact, and really lean into those edges. I'm curious to know what you do when you've got your open time in the day. You said you've only got 20% kind of like mapped out already. The other 80%, what's your philosophy? Is it just, I'm going to grow this as much as possible? Do you take time to strategize and plan? What's your rhythm with your work?
Yeah, definitely. I have like, you know, vision, mission, values for the business, and then we have like a 90-day plan that we kind of work towards. So that's kind of like locked in and loaded in. In terms of my overall sort of like goals, it used to be just like whatever is going to make the most amount of money. That's what I would kind of like, that's what I would do. But having reached a certain point of my life whereby I'm now thinking more about diversification and thinking about, I love Business Blueprint. I love what it does and how it kind of like helps people. But it's still a business that's very much based around my personality and me being the kind of like leader of the organization. And so one of the things that I made a decision about 3 years ago is to start basically investing in other companies outside of my own company. So I find promising businesses that I put my money into, and also I put my time into as well. And for me, I do that part of out of the fact that I want to build up other income streams that have nothing to do with you know, with my face. But also I find them really fun as well. And I like to, like, my business is, you know, is 10 years old, and it's not like I can rebuild another website every month, you know? So it's kind of like, you know, if it's done, it's kind of like, okay, well, I might update it every couple of years, but they're creative. I love creating stuff. I love giving new things. And I always sometimes I kind of like got really jaded, you know, in terms of my business, because I was kind of like, sometimes breaking things, I need to fix them again, or I was kind of like getting upset because it was so kind of like, I cracked the kind of the formula to a certain extent, and there was kind of like nothing else to build. And so what I've done now is have some other businesses whereby I'm getting into the weeds of like writing the copy and creating the Facebook ads and, you know, designing the logo and coming up with a brand strategy. And just because for me, it's fun. So part of what I'm doing now is not just what makes money in the short term, but also what is going to make more money in the long term by diversification and creating multiple streams of income, decreasing the risk on a key person, but also things that are fun. Like they're making decisions right now. I'm doing a property development at the moment. Why? Because I just like, it's fun for me to learn about how to do a property development. I'm also trading stock market as well, just some buy and hold sort of like shares. But one of the things is fun for me to wake up in the morning and see how my shares did overnight, because I just like, it's just fun for me. And another thing I'm doing at the moment, I'm going to do a course in how to actually understand how to value big companies and how to read balance sheets and profit and loss statements of major companies, so I could see whether or not a stock is undervalued or not. And I'm doing that just because, you know, I probably make a couple of $1,000s, you know, a month from the stock market. At the moment, I'm just kind of like, it's, for me, it's just play money. It's not like, it's not a serious business, but I just love the fact that I'm learning, growing, and doing things that that are, you know, just fun.
That's really cool. And just to be clear for the people that are listening, like Dale runs a multi-million-dollar business at the moment. Finances aren't an issue. And I think that there's such an important point here for all the people that are listening, that if you if anyone, that all the people that I know that are successful in business reflect back and think, what have the funnest times been for me? And often it is the most challenging times. It's the time when they were busiest and things were messy and they had a team and everything was all over the place and they didn't know what was going to come next. And then the business gets to a point, which it needs to, where there's strong operational rigor and consistency, and things are formatted and sent. And there's a right balance between innovation and consistency. But for the guys that I know that run 5, 10, 50, $150 million businesses, and I've been with them when we've done vision setting and reflection activities, people always get excited about what the business used to be like, when it was more like they were a cowboy playing around with, I don't know what's going to happen. Oh, let's take this risk. But when people are in that mode, all they're wanting is the consistency. I just want to get it to this point where it's systemized and it's running and I've got the freedom. And I think this is such a beautiful learning with this conversation of how you've built yourself up to the point where you've been able to have both, because you've through the hustle and grind, landed at a point where you've been able to integrate freedom and lifestyle into it, from a family perspective, from a travel perspective, from a fun perspective, and inside the business. This is one thing I mentioned to you a few weeks ago that I was most impressed with you about, which is I can tell that you have built the business around what you're strong at. And the way that I can see that is, like, I can tell you're really great at videos and communication and networking, and I can tell that you create time to do that. You're sending out these little video pieces and connecting with people. Can you talk to me a little bit more about how you play to your strengths in business?
Yeah. So I think that part of my strengths are, you know, I'm really good, like, visionary in terms of like coming up with really good ideas. Sometimes, you know, too many ideas, but I'm also pretty good at being able to be decisive in terms of which one of the ideas are we going to put our time and energy into. And then I'm also, you know, fairly good as well in terms of like executing and just like breaking stuff down into smaller steps and just kind of go. Then when it comes to the actual details of that, I probably will pass on as much as I can. I used to do everything, of course, like many entrepreneurs, but now I kind of have the team that can do a lot of the implementation for me, and then it's just a matter of making sure that, you know, checking in and monitoring the team and make sure that people are sort of like achieving their goals. And then kind of now it's about kind of one of my things that I'm still getting better at. I wouldn't call it a strength right now, but I'm getting better at being able to juggle multiple businesses at the same time. For 10 years, I just, you know, focused on the kind of the one. But now, you know, what I normally would do is throughout the day, I will work on my main business. And then at the night, I will kind of work on one of the different businesses that I'm, you know, a partner in. And so I'll, you know, pick one of them and say, okay, I'm feeling really inspired to do some web design work, or I'm feeling really inspired to help someone with a marketing challenge, or I'm feeling inspired to, you know, help someone with a strategic plan. And so I'll do that kind of at night. You know, if I'm feeling up for it, sometimes I just want to, you know, sit and watch a kind of documentary or something like that. But other times, for me, business is part of not only what I do for income, it's also, it's part, for me, it's what I do for fun. Sometimes, some kind of like times when you're working on an exciting project, I'd rather actually, you know, work on a business than actually, you know, watch Netflix or play video games or things like that, because I get, you know, for me, that's kind of like my creative outlet is, you know, creating making things happen out of
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah. So you've got yourself to this point now where the business is operating. You've done very well financially for a long period of time, but you're at this point now where you've got a team. The team help you on the detailed focus stuff that you prefer not to do. You know what you like to do and you've balanced it. How do you get to that point? Because right off the bat, you were someone that made big moves when you were 19 and you built the personal development business for young humans, and that business had 30,000 people attend all your events. Like, that's a big deal. You had 17 best-selling books, 11 that you launched in 1 year. They're big steps. Like,
Yeah.
how a lot of people are listening go, well, I don't want to do the sales calls. I don't want to do the marketing stuff. I don't want to do this, but they don't have momentum yet. So
Yeah.
what would your advice be to those people in that situation about how do they get to the point where they can start to create a team and support structure around them that leverages their strengths?
Yeah, like the secret to success at the very beginning for me was just work your ass off, So that's what kind of I did for the first, kind of like nearly 10 years of my career, is just like worked really, really hard. I did a lot of things, everything myself. I was just like, I got to get in, got to figure it out, sales calls, if it was, kind of like speaking, if it was meeting with people, bring proposals together, invoicing, whatever it was. I was just like doing all of it. Now, I don't recommend that. I think that you do have to work hard, definitely at the beginning. But once you've kind of figured out the best way of doing something, you need to document what it is that you do, create a kind of a system for it, and then pass it on to someone else. And if you've got a really good system, you don't have to have some PhD, kind of like level person. You just need to have an assistant. And now with regards to technology, this assistant could be not just in your country, but could be anywhere in the world. So, I've got 11 people in the Philippines that work for us now. And so I've got a full-time graphic designer, I've got a full-time website developer, I've got 2 full-time customer care people as well. I've got a full-time events coordinator. And so, but you just start with one. So you just like do it all yourself, work hard, figure out the best way, systemize it, pass it on to someone else. Then figure out the next thing, systemize it, pass it on to someone else, systemize it, figure it out, and then just keep moving forward. But once you've done things, 2, 3, 4 times and you go, okay, this is now repetitive, then you need to stop doing it and then go slay the kind of the next dragon, so to speak. So that's what I wish I would have done sooner. Like I just kind of like, I'll just keep doing it. I'll just keep doing it. So I didn't give away enough tasks sooner. I only learned systems, sort of like 7, 8 years into my career. I then started to kind of go, shit, I need to now get some help and I can't keep doing all this myself. But but you still have to do the work at the beginning. Some people like to systemize everything without understanding it. And that just never seems to work, because you can't kind of like lead someone that you haven't been before. You need to be able to have that understanding of how it actually works. Not necessarily the inner workings of every single detail, but you need to have some type of an appreciation for sales to then hire a sales manager. You need to have an appreciation for design in order to then hire someone else, so because otherwise if they're up here and you're down here, you'll never find a great person.
So how do you slay that dragon? Because this is one of the things that I mentioned when we're doing some intention setting before the interview. I want to help extract what you have normalized. For you, slaying dragons is just what has to be done and you just do it. But I want to get into your mind, like what goes through your mind before you take a big action that needs to be done to further the business. Like with Business Blueprint, you're running events right off the bat. Like, how did you just start running an event? Like, what's your mental process or justification to be able to do it so that you could get yourself to take that action?
Yeah. So if it's something that I believe is like going to help us to achieve our strategic goals, whether it's to be running an event or to, launch a magazine, or whether it's to, we're going to, go kind of expand into a new market type thing. If I believe that that's the right thing to do strategically, then I'll just kind of like, get in and I'll just start thinking about it. First of all, I'll just start thinking about it. I'll think about it while I'm running. I'll think about it while I'm kind of like, going to the gym or swimming. I just kind of will just keep thinking about it. And then the ideas will start to flow. We could do this, we could do this, we could do this. And then I oftentimes will, and I'll start like just an Evernote file I'll just start checking down my ideas and putting it in there and just thinking about it more, letting the ideas kind of like flow. And then like I'm working on a project right now, and I ask myself, who are the 5 people that I know that actually know about this particular subject, and that I've done what it is that I want to do, that I can kind of like talk to. And so I'll write down their names and I'll kind of hit them up and I'll say, and like just, you know, before I send a message through, this guy that I know called John, and he's done some things that I kind of want to do. So I asked him, you know, so when it comes to this, how would you recommend going about it? Would you recommend this or this or this or this? And I'm sure he'll, you know, get back to me with some advice. And so I'll then kind of get feedback from different people before I develop the best way. And then I will kind of write down, okay, now that I've kind of like got my ideas together and I've got some people give me feedback and the idea seems kind of sound, and they've helped me to shortcut a few of the decisions that I have to make because they've already, you know, kind of made the mistakes before me. Then I'll kind of come up with a list of things we need to do, some of which I'll do myself, but others I'm going to start to pass to the team. And then we're just going to get in and just, you know, get it done. And if we set it's a time frame of 2 weeks, then that's what we do. If we said it's a month, that's what we do. We just kind of work to make it happen. Then obviously we do the thing and we review it. Did it work? Did it not work? And then I'll sort of say if it just completely bombed, then we might say, okay, that's good to know now, and let's kind of move on. Or do we go, like one of my sayings is it bent or is it broken? Like if it's bent, straighten it and just get on with it, like improve it, iterate it, make it better. But if it's absolutely broken, then just move on to the next thing. And there's going to be a lot of failures along your journey to success. So just, you know, suck it up and keep moving forward.
So what if someone's really nervous about, like, what's something that you have known that you needed to do strategically that you were really kind of nervous of or uncertain about? And how did you work through it?
So like for me, I don't, you know, there's not a lot of, not like fear is something that, that I don't really, I just like feel the fear and do it anyway. So, you know, I'm so scared about it. Great. You're scared about it. Fantastic. Why is that? Why does that need to stop you? Like, you know, it's like feel the fear and do it anyway. Like, so I never see like fear, you know, as a barrier to doing something. I feel it's just, okay, I'm stepping out of my comfort zone. I'm going to a new place. You know, I'm going to feel a bit uncomfortable. I'm going to feel a little bit kind of like out of my depth. I'm going to feel like I'm a bit of an imposter, but I'm just going to kind of like push through that. And so, you know, I've always taught that when I've been running the youth programs, you know, with the comfort zone. When you push through your comfort zone, you hit fear. You know, when you push through that fear, you have growth. And when you continue to grow, you achieve success. So it's a very simple kind of like model. Sometimes if I feel that, so fear is something that I haven't yeah, I remember saying the hero and the coward have the same fear. The hero does it anyway. So sometimes we think that, oh, these people that are always achieving success, they're never fearful. No, they have the same fears that you do, but they just go, okay, great, I'm just going to do it anyway. So that was a quote that I remember reading like in my early 20s. And so I just kind of believe that to be true. And that's definitely helped me. Sometimes when I'm feeling like uncomfortable about something, like this is like not really a fear, but it's more like you know, intuition is around, then I might talk to my wife about it, or I might talk to some friends and go, I'm feeling not fearful, but I'm feeling a bit scared or a bit uncomfortable, or not, that this is maybe not the right approach. And then you also follow where your subconscious goes as well, like where your energy goes. It sort of like determines how subconsciously you're feeling about a certain project. And if you're just kind of like everything is hard work, and you're having to force yourself to get up in bed, and you're having to force yourself to work on something, there's something going on subconsciously that maybe it's not your path. And so you know, that's also a good indication as well that maybe I need to kind of back off, because if it's not flowing, then maybe it's not the right thing for me.
Yeah, totally. And this is, I think you're a great example of a high performing entrepreneur. And this is what a high performing entrepreneur looks like: knowing what they need to do, getting creative, allowing the ideas to flow, then doing it, iterating, doing it, iterating, next idea, executing, and fears around that whole time. But you've normalized it. And I know there's going to be so many people listening going, well, thanks, Dale. You're a great example of this. Why am I not finding it as easy? But I think that one thing that is underestimated in business is momentum. Because when you build and when you get enough inertia to begin with, something does have a a movement of its own and momentum of its own. Like Business Blueprint would run without you being there, and you have to attend certain things and you have to innovate. You can't just not innovate the business or the business will fail. It becomes a mandatory responsibility of having that thing that you've created in place. Kind of like having a kid. You can't have a kid and then just be like, all right, you're in, and you've got to do everything required to make sure that that child is raised properly. And it's the same thing when a business gets to a point where it's a living being. And so I think for a lot of people, they're nervous of doing those initial actions and making things happen. But once there's momentum and progress in place, it does self-perpetuate.
Mm.
Yeah, it's a really important thing. So Dale, what advice would you give to, if you could go from an absolute blank canvas in business at your current age with everything that you know, and I just took every single business and project that you had on the go, what would you do? Like complete blank canvas from a business perspective. How would you start again? What would your mindset be? How would you be thinking about it?
Yeah, I think that, where would I start? I think you've got to start with something that you are.
I want to know you. I want you to get like really in, just
Yeah.
imagine. Because I know when I've run a business for a long period of time, I make decisions because around what's going on. But if I took all of that away from you, Business Blueprint was gone. Like,
Yeah.
if you just feel into it, where would you lean into?
So it would be like, what am I passionate about, right now? I'm still passionate about business. So I probably do something in the business kind of, and I love education. So I'd probably do something in that space. But even if I had different goals and my passions had changed, I'd find something that whereby, time just kind of like, sort of like times just, I can just work at something for hours and it doesn't feel like work. It just feels like, it just feels like you're in flow. So I'd find something that I was really passionate about. And then for me, I'd then find a market, that shares that same sort of like, passion for that particular thing. And then find a problem, that market kind of has that hasn't been sort of solved. And then I think about some type of product or solution that would then solve that particular problem for those people. You've all heard the, saying, a lot of people that they, come up with the product first. That's like putting the cart before the horse. What you need to do is find a market and a problem that you can solve first, and then be the solution to that particular problem. So I've made the mistake before many times of coming out with a product and going, hey, I got this great product, and then trying to think about how I'm going to sell it. It's always better to find a market that needs something, has a problem, and then go solve that particular problem with create a product to solve that particular problem. But then as well, I think that there's just so many opportunities out there with regards to the skills that I now have, to rather than having to be my own company as well, that I actually find amazing businesses that are out there, and then get involved in championing those businesses, because I can show them how to grow very successfully. So for me now, doesn't even need to be my own business. If I didn't have Business Blueprint, I probably would be finding 10 amazing entrepreneurs and then pouring my time into them and help each of them become $1 million and then a multi-million-dollar business like I've done. And because I get a lot of joy now out of helping other people to achieve success, because I've achieved like my financial goals. I like helping other people to achieve their financial goals as well.
Yeah, beautiful. Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Dale. I've got a couple of things that I want to wrap up with, but you're such a great role model. I just want to honor you for being someone who has had the gusto just to jump up and just chase and pursue what you care about with massive courage, and just keep plodding forward and iterating on the process to build what is such an amazing lifestyle. It's so inspiring. And when I was reading through your bio and I watched the way that you live your life, what you're able to achieve and pursue, your consistency, your courage, your innovation, it's so cool to see. And I know that the people listening will be like super inspired by what you've shared today. So thank you for being you, and thanks for coming on today. I'd love for you to direct people where you'd like them to go, and then we'll finish with one last question.
All right, awesome. So yeah, if you want to find out more about me or follow me in some way, you can go to my personal website, dalebeaumont.com, and there you'll find links to most of the other things that I do. My main focus is Business Blueprint. So that is at businessblueprint.com. beaumont.com as well. If you have a business and you want kind of help, that's where to go. Otherwise, social media platforms, search for me. You should find me.
Where are you most active on social?
Social, probably, I said pull away a little bit from social. So, yeah, but I still am on Facebook, still on Instagram. I only post something that, that kind of like, yeah,
it's meaningful.
Yeah, is meaningful, as opposed to just, posting every day for the sake of it. But, yeah, I've still got lots of stuff there.
Yeah, cool. If you are listening to this and you found value so far, make sure you head to dalebeaumont.com. Send him an email. Just give him some feedback on what stood out for you most, and just make that touch point. I know it's so nice to hear from people that have gained inspiration from your work, and it's very normalized being a role model and creating so much value like Dale's created. But when you get those messages, it just means so much. So that would be really cool. My last question for you, Dale, is that if there was one piece of advice that you think is the most valuable piece of advice that you live your life by, what would that be? And if you could pay that forward as a finishing note, that would be really beautiful.
Yeah. So, I really feel that there's different ways that I could, go with this, whether it's something that's going to send you in the more path of like, there's different principles that have certainly helped me. One is about, really
taking... I know the one that's most exciting for you.
Yeah, the one that's most exciting for me. For me, it's really now all about, just like living life to the fullest, but being just a kind person. I think along the way as well. I think there's just a lot of assholes out there, and I think the world doesn't need any more assholes. Just be a great person. Just be a good person is the thing that I care about most now. I don't really care about how successful someone is or what they necessarily have achieved. I just care about is this someone that I would want to spend time with, and is this someone that I think that I want my kids to be around? Is this someone that that's easy to talk to and that brings joy to my life and that makes everyone feel good? That's kind of, for me, I think the most important thing is to just don't lose yourself, and the whole idea about being a kind and generous person in the pursuit of what other people think is success.
That's really beautiful, and you've really shown me that kindness and that love through our interactions that we've had so far, and I really felt that. That's why I really wanted to bring you on today. So thanks again for jumping on, man. Massive love.
Welcome. Thanks, guys. All the best.